hidden deep beneath the dust of time and the ashes of long slumbering tongues. A cipher etched on Dragonhide awaits its awakening. This is not merely a quest for treasure, but a journey to rouse humanity's first memory, where breath, characters, and soul unite as one. Characters not of this world, not because it belonged to a fire-breathing creature of myth, but because no scientist, whether in histology or biophysics, could identify the material it was made from. It didn't decompose. It didn't burn in fire. It didn't dissolve in acid. And most notably, it glowed faintly when touched by ancient ink. That's why scholars at the Central European Institute for Artifact Preservation gave it an unofficial name, the Dragonhide Scroll. The material was discovered 17 years ago, buried between 2 pages of a book on ancient mythology, in the damp archives of the Royal Bavarian Library. No one knew how long it had been lying there, but when a preservationist accidentally spilled a drop of black tea onto its surface, glowing symbols emerged spiraling like dragon scales. And then, the fragment disappeared from the internal report. Lynn Larocque is a crypto-symbolist based in Toulouse, France. She's 32, a former ancient linguistics scholar from École Normale Supérieure, who dropped out of her PhD to open a secondhand bookstore beside an abandoned church. Lynn has one unusual habit: collecting characters no one can read, from Nubian stones, Sami totems, to carved animal bones in Siberia. Wherever irrational script appears, Lynn follows. She was invited to join 3 codenamed European research projects, but declined them all. As she puts it, "I don't decode for weapons. I decode to recover human memory." Until one day a senderless email arrived, with just one line, "I have something." And it just started talking. Attached was a photo, a piece of skin, not paper, not fabric, not animal hide, with glowing spiral glyphs reminiscent of the Atlantis script Lynn had studied for 5 years without cracking. In the upper left corner, a red ink blot shaped like a dragon's head cleaved in half. Lynn knew she had reached the edge of what linguists call pre-language, a term for symbolic systems that aren't technically writing, yet repeat patterns with logic and meaning. And she knew only one organization had ever dared to publicly chase this Codex Draconum. Once accused of manipulating major 20th century excavations, the society was banned after the infamous chemical linguistics incident in Belgium, when a carved tablet emitted ultrasonic signals that left an entire research team memoryless for 72 hours. They believed in the existence of a living language requiring no speech, no script, only a sufficiently attuned human mind. A language of truth, older than any tongue. And the Dragonhide might be the last surviving record of it. Lynn followed the lead to Keenwood Library, where the sender claimed the original hide was kept. But when she arrived, the building had been shut down due to an unexplained electromagnetic event. Outside stood an elderly man, introducing himself as Daniel Vermeer, an independent scholar, and the one who sent her the photo. Daniel lived alone in an apartment filled with books, maps, and dozens of wooden boxes sealed with mechanical locks. In the corner inside a glass case was the real Dragonhide, still glowing. "I think it's waiting for someone," Daniel said. "Not someone to decode it, but to listen." When Lynn touched the edge of the hide, her heartbeat slowed. A line appeared in a language she'd never studied yet instantly understood. "Seek the place where fire does not die, and the ash still remembers the name of the last breath." From that moment on, Lynn was no longer just a linguist. She was the last keyholder to an ancient linguistic treasure, one that could shake the foundations of modern civilization. Her journey took her across the nameless caves of Cappadocia, where the first symbols were etched into stone, the monastery of shadows in Trieste, where texts were hidden beneath sacred chants, and a city buried in ash beneath Mount Etna, where she would face the last writer. She was not alone. By her side, Daniel, who once lost 10 years of memory after contact with ancient glyphs, and Leo, a freelance symbolist with a love for whiskey, and a story about chatting with a statue fluent in Morse code. This odd trio embarked on what felt like a whimsical adventure, but soon, the whimsy melted into the chilling silence of untold truths. and in the shadows of a world that tried to forget its first language, they began decoding a message that was never meant to be read. Dawn paints the sky, the first light of morning crests above Cappadocia's ragged horizon, tinting the frigid sky rose gold. Three figures, Lynn-Mile LaRocque, Daniel Vermeer, and Leo Hartman, stand at the mouth of a mute stone cavern, a fissure in the earth ready to swallow secrets millennia old. No one speaks. Eagerness and tension flicker in their exchanged glances. Lynn clicks on a custom torch. Cold, white blue light threads into the pitch-black void. Her first footfall slices the stillness like a blade, stirring the damp, loamy air. The silent cavern earned its name for absolute quiet, no drip of water, no whisper of wind, not even an echo of their own steps, only a dense atmosphere, as if every breath belonged to time itself. Daniel tightens his grip on a handheld recorder. Ready, Ms. LaRocque? Air like this muddles the mind. Leo murmurs, if the silence gets too thick, I'm afraid it'll swallow my thoughts. Lynn merely smiles. Silence is where codes start talking. She and Daniel had pored over ancient sketches for weeks. This was the site of the Dragonhide's first glyphs. 200 meters in, the passage widens. A near-perfect wall rises 3 meters high, 5 meters across, its surface etched with scale-like glyphs that emit a faint green glow, spiraling like a whirlpool. Lynn kneels, palm against the stone. Here it is, the first layer of the pre-language. A handheld 3D scanner sweeps the glyphs. Each dragon scale curves across the display. Daniel records, hoping to capture any resonance when Lynn touches the wall. It's truly silent, Leo mutters. I thought I'd hear a whisper. Faith comes from contact, not sound, Daniel replies. Eyes closed, Lynn listens. It speaks of wind and ash. When breath cools, the ash will unveil the first path. Farther in, a thin film of ash coats the limestone floor. Lynn squats, tracing a spiral with her finger. The ash shifts under her nail, bleaching from gray-white to glowing ember red, reacting to her body heat. This isn't ordinary ash, she says. It warms on contact. Nothing's ordinary down here, Leo sighs. Daniel nods. Perhaps it's a guide. Warm ash points the way. They follow the spiral path. At each bend the ash morphs earth brown, mineral blue, pristine white, until a jutting boulder masks a narrow crawlspace. Leo slips through first and reaches an underground pool. The water lies glass still, mirroring torch light. Above its surface, ash clings to the walls but no longer glows. Daniel angles his beam down. Submerged glyphs lie inverted beneath the water. If they're inverted, maybe the pool is a mirror. Leo wonders. Let's test the Dragonhide, Lynn suggests. She unseals her case. The hide flares brilliant green, especially over its scale glyphs. Dipping one corner into the pool, the water calms. A soft aqua light unfurls, revealing a stone bridge arcing across. No need to swim, Leo grins. Everything here is choreographed. Daniel cautions. Lynn's voice is cool. This language isn't for the impatient. Across the bridge, a carved portal emerges, dragons entwined around a sunken spiral at its center. The breath sigil, said to restore prelingual memory. Lynn slots the Dragonhide into the recess. Dragon green light fuses with the spiral's glow. The gate clicks and yawns. Inside, a ramp descends. A faint wind sighs. Remember the ash. Remember the ash. They buried memories, not gold, Daniel murmurs. We move, Lynn decides. Each step is a message. The passage narrows, lined with shoulder-high statues. Each bears a single scale glyph on its chest. Faces blank, save a parted mouth marble mid-breath. Passing each figure, Lynn notes how the glyphs align with markings on the Dragonhide. Daniel records their footfalls. The rhythm forms a haunting cadence. Leo whispers, stone breathing. It's the ancient breath, second tier of the language. Lynn explains. A T, the 10th statue. The hide flickers. An icy draft sweeps past. Lynn leans to the wall. Sound, ash, memory, voice, or hallucination? Leo asks. The living language, she answers. Golden glyphs blaze across the thin parchment. Instead of words, a disembodied voice fills the space. From dying embers, the first flame guides through the forgotten forest. Those who dare the fire will see a lighthouse in blind night. Yet when the night bird wakes, a new day is foretold. Leo inhales. Dying embers, lost memories. First flame, the first glyph. Forgotten forest must be Ravenmaw. Lin nods. This is just Tier 1. Directions to the forest. But as they turn back, the Dragonhide dims. Statues shift, ash whirls, stone mouths grind. Regret is useless. Leo trembles. Silence, Daniel hisses. This is the silence trial. Tier 2, Lin whispers. No sound, or the exit stays shut. They hold their breath, steps feather light. Every scrape of boot is a verdict. When at last the ash settles and the hide rekindles, the gate ray appears. They slip through, the ash gleams pure white. We beat the trial. Lin exhales. Daniel smiles, spent. A language read with every sense. Leo adds, silence never felt so loud. Outside, sun climbs higher over Cappadocia's stone spires. Red ash gusts from nearby vents, an omen from the cipher. Lin recalls the final whisper. Miles of ash lead to red ash. Their next destination is the ash-stained, wordless Ravenmaw forest where the Dragonhide will speak. The second chapter. Leo fills his lungs. Unexpected, perilous, and frighteningly silent. Daniel strokes his beard. We've written in ash, light, and hush. Perhaps this language is experience. Lin gazes skyward. Exactly. And we are its next storytellers. They pack the Dragonhide, the golden scroll, the bone comb, samples of shifting ash. Before them winds a path into the forest. Crimson dust swirls on the wind. Lin smiles faintly. The silent cavern was only the beginning. The cipher has opened. Tier 1. Ravenmaw will reveal Tier 2. The trio strides into the ruby haze. Footsteps a muted echo, carrying the dragon script toward its next secret. Leaving the silent cavern behind, the three seekers of the pre-language journeyed to northern Italy. Trieste, a port city by the Adriatic, welcomed them with salty winds and late autumn drizzle. Amid Baroque buildings bathed in pale sunlight, stood a small hill, home to an abandoned monastery. Absent from every tourist map, locals called it the Nameless Monastery. On their first day in Trieste, the trio stopped at a cafe overlooking the port. Leo Hartman took a sip of espresso and winced. Damn, this espresso's as bitter as the Beale cipher. Daniel Vermeer chuckled. At least it doesn't shut down your brain like the ash stone in Cappadocia. Lin-Mile Larocque smiled faintly, eyes following a rusted cargo ship on the horizon. The monastery appears tonight. Rest now. Tomorrow, we go. At dawn, they climbed the hill. Through a rusted iron gate, the monastery revealed itself. A cluster of ash-colored brick buildings, yellowed red tile roofs, arched windows with shattered glass, moss crawling across every surface. No nameplate, just an old bronze bell hanging crookedly from a belfry like the hoarse whisper of monks long gone. Leo shivered. Can we officially call this a monk's hell? Daniel chuckled under his breath. Looks more like a haunted opera house. Lin exhaled. Silence. Follow the Dragonhide. It will guide us. They spent their first night in a crude, firelit room near the back, one of the few with an intact door. At midnight, Daniel awoke to the sound of chanting. Male voices echoed through the halls, intoning in an unrecognizable tongue, melodic, looping like ancient Gregorian hymns. Leo turned to Lin. That sounds like it's rising straight from hell. Lin flicked on her flashlight slowly. No, it's auditory script. Daniel whispered. The sound of the pre-language. They followed the sound down a wide corridor. Candlelight flickered at a windowsill. Their shadows stretched long across damp stone walls. The music grew clearer, repeating notes matching the spiral glyphs carved in the cavern. Leo asked, "What do you hear?" Lin closed her eyes. Paint shadows on the wall. When night falls, the shadow will reveal the second glyph. The sound stopped. Only the faint rustle of old pages remained. They found their way to the monastery's scriptorium, its ancient library, where monks once transcribed sacred texts. Desks overturned. Dust choked the room. Torn pages littered the tile Floor. Lin placed the dragonhide on a table. A droplet from the ceiling struck it, and its glyphs shimmered from green to smoky gray. Here, she pointed to a page tacked to the wall. The chant lines are drawn as evenly spaced double notes. Leo tilted his head. Looks like Morse. Or Morse glyphs. Daniel removed his scarf and wiped the wall. A faint pattern emerged, 7 musical notes forming a spiral. Lin recorded in her journal. This is the auditory glyph tier, the second cipher layer. We must convert the notes into Dragonhide script. Using a fine-tipped brush, Lin marked each note onto the hide. The symbols lit up, one by one, each matched to a swirling glyph. The room bathed in soft light, reflecting off pages with drawings of dragons encircling the monastery. We're carving language into the dragonhide itself, Leo whispered in awed as they worked. The door creaked open. A shadow flitted across the room, not human, but cast by a crooked saint statue fallen from the wall. Its twisted silhouette now resembled a dragon's head, moving with the candlelight. Daniel, startled. Is that statue walking? Lin yanked him back into the glow of the dragonhide. That's the third glyph's shadow. Watch. The dragon-shaped shadow drifted to a wall corner, etching a faint spiral glyph. They captured it with a 3D scan just before it vanished. We should run, Leo stammered. No, Lin said gently. This is the ghost trial, the third tier. We don't run. We record. They left the scriptorium and entered a 2-story hallway with vaulted arches inscribed with ancient prayers. As they passed under each arch, the glyphs on the dragonhide glowed brighter. Leo clapped, delighted. This feels like an extension of the silent cavern. Daniel tugged back a faded curtain lining the wall behind it, a row of faded landscape murals. Each one was marked with pre-language notes: Ash Hill, Drowned Lake, the door that never closes. Lin read a torn note below: Go where silence keeps the final words. She realized this was a partial translation. The next destination was the underground shrine, where a dried-up spring once ran. The trio was exhausted, but their eyes burned bright. Tier 3 was now unlocked. On a sweltering midday in Ravenmaw, breeze stirred silver leaves in the shifting sunlight. Underneath dense foliage, Lin-Mael Larocque, Daniel Vermeer, and Leo Hartman paused beside a large moss-covered boulder. On its surface, blue dragon scale glyphs traced their steps, a warning of an impending storm. Lin gazed upward. Clouds are gathering to the north. Though the forecast says no storm, this one isn't natural. Leo clenched his ancient leather map. You mean a symbolic storm? Daniel followed the swirling clouds. Why are the glyphs converging here? Is this the storm's eye? Lin knelt, brushing aside moss to reveal a spiral of fresh glyphs, glowing like lightning. Sound does not reside far from mind. As they read aloud, wind surged around the rock like a miniature whirlwind. Before Daniel could ready his recorder, Leo cried out, I hear something. A chime-like hum drifted through the treetops, each tone etching a glyph in midair, spiraling like a strange melody. Lin sprayed a fine nano mist into the air. In the mist, 3D dragon glyphs materialized, swirling around them. Sound paints the path. The storm brings the letter. The wind howled, tossing dry leaves in a turbulent vortex. Leo winced. Please don't kill me with dry leaves. Daniel shouted, Be silent. He gently swept the space in front of them. We must hear before we look. Lin recited, The storm is a storm of sound. We can't decode this on paper, we must be inside it. Eyes closed, she let the wind and chimes envelop her, listening for the constellation of glyphs. They formed a circle, holding the dragonhide at the center. Bracing their feet, they welcomed the swirling gusts. Each breath of wind, from gentle sighs to roaring gusts, was captured by Daniel's recorder and converted into frequency data. Leo played the frequencies through a portable speaker. Instantly, scarlet dragon glyphs blossomed in front of them. In that fleeting calm, Leo whispered, I see red letters. The storm roared again, showering them in ash, yet the red glyphs remained emblazoned on the dragonhide. Lin read aloud, Where ash must judge the thickness of memory, silence reigned. The symbolic storm did not tolerate chatter, only stillness, and absorption marked the first decoded layer of this tier. Once the red glyphs etched themselves, the wind subsided into an eerie calm. Following trails of red ash, the trio wove through giant trunks until they reached a clearing. Black ash blanketed the ground, cracked like giant hoof prints. According to the ancient map, they stood within the eye of the storm. Lin inspected a fissure. This is it. We must cross. Leo hesitated. Barefoot crossing is not my favorite. Daniel produced rubber boots from his pack. Use these. They trudged through ash into a ring of ancient trees. The ground trembled, and blue glyphs spiraled upward across branches, the eye revealing a natural stone arch where two tree trunks met. Leo gently pressed a glyph-marked tree. As their hands touched, a breeze swirled through them, cool and cleansing. Lin closed her eyes, focusing. The final sound is the guiding glyph. She traced the lingering resonant tone, locked between the promise and ash. Daniel shone his light through the arch and entrance emerged, the wind's howl merging with distant chimes from the opposite cavern. Leo inhaled deeply. I see a tongue of wind bridging two worlds. Lin whispered. We must pass in harmony, not disrupt the storm. They stepped through the arch, in absolute silence. No devices, just wind and footfalls. Beyond, a circular stone chamber opened with a deep well. Around its rim, 12 dragon glyphs corresponded to the 12 beats of the storm. Leo placed the dragonhide at the well's edge. The glyphs on both surfaces formed a numeric sequence from 1 to 12. Daniel replayed the recorded frequencies via his speaker. As the pattern resonated, the well erupted with a spiral of blue light. Ash swirled upward, forming a luminous stairway like a galaxy, only for those who dare jump into sound. Lin murmured, her eyes alight. Leo gripped the hide, gazing up at the ash staircase. Feels like walking through the stars. Daniel whispered, sound has become our path. They took the first step onto the glowing ash stair. Suspended in the swirling ash, countless dragon glyphs drifted like a star cloud. Leo grasped Lin's hand. I'm afraid. I'm in the heart of the storm. Lin smiled. Just don't forget to listen. Daniel recorded everything. This is the living experience of language. On the fifth step, glyphs coalesced into a dragon woman's visage, gentle yet profound. She whispered, the wind never forgets its source. Ash never forgets the fire. Though the words echoed, they were understood intuitively. Lin bowed, interpreting the next glyph. Reflection trial. Blink when it flares. They halted. When the ash flared like a miniature sun, they must close their eyes. If they didn't, the glare could burn their eyes. Lin whispered to Daniel, when it flashes, close your eyes so the glyph imprints in your mind. They did so, eyes shut, hearts pounding as the ash glowed. Leo feared blindness, panic rising. But in that moment, dragon glyphs engraved into their minds, a dragon tree image, revealing Tier 2 of the storm, perspective of rebirth. When the light subsided, they opened their eyes to find themselves in a small stone chamber, roots drooping from the ceiling. It was warmer, still, and the dragonhide in Lin's hands had turned pale orange. Lin read the orange glyph. Rebirth mandate. When storm ends, ash changes color. Seek where ash has never stopped burning. Daniel murmured, ash that never stopped burning. A volcano. Leo smiled. Mount Etna. Its red ash once buried cities. Lin nodded. Right. The silent cavern, the nameless monastery, the symbol storm, all point toward the eternal flame. That's where Tier 3 awaits. They exited through a hidden stone door behind the root-laden chamber into Ravenmaw's forest. The ash beneath their feet had shifted from black to glowing orange opalescent in the late afternoon sun. Smoke-tinged breezes flickered through the trees. Lin stroked the dragonhide, smiling confidently. The storm taught us how to hear, how to be silent, and how to reflect. Tier 2, the rebirth mandate, will lead us to the red ash of Etna. Leo exhaled in excitement. I'm ready to burn with the ash. Daniel nodded firmly. Our ciphered journey continues, but at least we've touched the storm. Together, they followed the glowing orange trail through Ravenmaw, each step carrying the dragon script toward the eternal flame. Ravenmaw Forest was blanketed in orange volcanic ash, each step bringing them closer to the slopes of dormant Mount Etna. The fine mineral dust clung to their rubber boots and clothes as dusk sunlight dappled their faces with warmth. The air thinned, the faint scent of sulfur hanging low. Leo exhaled. I feel like my heart is beating in time with the volcano's breath. Daniel studied the Dragonhide map. Right where it says, breath, that's the key to the final gate. Remember the glyph's vital breath and rebirth converge here. Lynn checked her GPS. Just 500 meters to go, steadily uphill. No more trees, just rock and ash. She moved forward confidently, as if each step echoed the Dragonhide's rhythm recorded in caverns. Leo murmured, I never thought we'd climb this high. It's like we're about to breathe into the earth itself. Lynn offered a knowing smile. That's precisely the point. Breath, the sign of life, will open what lies beyond. At the end of the slope, they confronted a massive fissure in volcanic gray rock, roughly 2 meters wide and towering above them. Hundreds of dragon-scale glyphs curled along the chasm's rim like roaring waves. Midway up stood a flat ledge in natural frame at chest height. Lynn shone her light closer. On the ledge, scale glyphs glowed in gradating hues: green for vital breath, amber for rebirth, then silver white at the very lip. Below the ledge, a 2-centimeter groove carved for directing breath. Daniel smiled knowingly. This is it. The gate opens by breath. But how exactly do we breathe? Leo peered at the carvings. Are there instructions? Lynn pointed out 3 dots and 2 dashes like Morse code. Dot equals short breath. Dash equals long inhale plus strong exhale. She counted the pattern aloud. Could spell Draco in our breathing, she guessed. Daniel nodded. Short breath is a quick exhale. Long is a deep inhale, then sustained exhale. Leo shivered. So, we breathe into the gate in sequence, facing the fissure, doubt etched on their faces. Leo voiced his concern. Miss LaRoque, what if we overbreath and pass out? Lynn raised the Dragonhide. Don't worry, this hide has recorded every breath sequence: cavern, storm, ritual. We follow its rhythm. Short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short. She tapped their shoulders firmly as she guided them. Short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short. They inhaled twice gently, then deeply once, exhaling long. Short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short. On the first attempt, nothing stirred. On the second, a mild breeze slipped through the crack, scattering ash. On the third, the Dragonhide shone silver white. The fissure trembled and widened, revealing a pitch-black tunnel beyond a living stone gate pulling apart. Leo gasped. Unbelievable. Our breath spoke the language of the rock. Daniel clicked his recorder. Did that register? Breath hour. Only sound. Lynn stepped forward, voice soft. This was the ultimate test. Breath belongs to the living. The final gate only opens for those alive. They entered a descending stone corridor. Jagged rock ceilings dripped silent water into narrow fissures, merging into humid air. Every breath materialized as mist, weaving delicate patterns along the walls. Lynn paused to observe. See, when we breathe, our vapor traces hidden grooves, new dragon glyphs. Using infrared gear, she revealed faint inscriptions activated only by their breath. Glyphs gather where faith and breath held. Daniel translated, meaning, only breath born of belief can unlock this? Leo asked, and if one of us breathes out of rhythm? Lynn didn't answer, but walked ahead, her breaths in sync with the hidden script. We go together, in perfect rhythm. The narrow passage twisted downward. The glyphs thickened, forming vertical waves of breath lines. Lynn took charge. Lynn, leader. Short, short, long, Daniel and Leo. Short, short, long, Lynn. Short, short, Daniel and Leo. Short, short, Lynn. Long, Daniel and Leo. Long step after step. Their mists illuminated new glyphs in silver white light. On the 9th cycle, their breath veil cleared, revealing a second gate, a polished white stone portal carved with the dragon's maw. Wide open, Leo exclaimed. It's the real breath gate. White stone. Daniel recorded. Maintain the rhythm. As we approach, Lynn beamed. This is the breath gate truly. Let's move. Standing before the white stone frame, They placed their hands against its icy surface. Lin's voice was calm. First, breath to open the crack. Second, breath to swing it open. Third, breath to step through. Leo swallowed hard. We're about to enter the mountain. Lin nodded. Short inhale, deep inhale, strong exhale. They executed. One short inhale, one deep, one forceful exhale against the stone. A resonant hum reverberated through the portal. Slowly, the white stone shifted aside, unveiling a circular chamber 4 meters across. In its center stood a chest-high dragonhide column, etched with silver-white glyphs. Leo whispered, "Feels like we've been reborn." Daniel exhaled, awed. "My heart has never felt so calm." Lin's eyes glimmered. "We've opened the breath gate." Ahead lies the pre-language relic. Inside the chamber, the giant dragonhide column pulsed steadily. Surrounding it were 6 stone plinths, each carrying a symbolic artifact, an ancient ceramic jar filled with red volcanic ash symbolizing vital breath, a misted bronze mirror reflecting the viewer with silver light, a glass-breathing vessel, a wind instrument that shatters upon use, releasing an acoustic pulse. An old dragonhide book, etched with glyphs and breath notations, a 6-holed bone flute, echoing the 6 storm beats, the bone comb discovered in the silent cavern, now silver illuminated. Lin moved among them, whispering, "Each represents a facet of the pre-language: ash memory, reflection, sound storm, breath life, melody flute, glyph comb." Daniel scribbled furiously. "Now we must activate all 6 to complete Tier 4, the 6-fold unification." Leo's eyes widened, like we're in a primal temple. Lin orchestrated their sequence. Ash jar. She gently inhaled its scent. The jar glowed amber rebirth. Mirror. Leo gazed into it, his eyes reflecting dragon glyphs. The mirror blazed silver. Breathing vessel. Daniel blew into it. The column vibrated like a harp. Book. Lin recited the last glyph. Into her breath, the column shone green. They proceeded through the stone passage to a small sanctum. On a stone altar was carved the final instruction: eternal breath. If one breathes in and out in a single pulse, the soul will attest to the pre-language. Below, relief showed a figure with twin halos, inhaling and exhaling in one unified breath. Lin smiled with serene purpose. The last command: breathe in, hold, then exhale, all in one pulse. Leo hesitated. "How long must we hold it?" Lin was solemn. "Until the dragonhide halts its glow. That's your sign of truth." Together, they inhaled deeply, the golden-orange ashlight glinting through a small vent. Holding it, hearts pounding. Then they exhaled. Rings glow faded from silver to warm gold, the hue of eternal breath. The final exhale echoed softly in the chamber. The breath-opened gate closed behind them, and a powerful white light erupted beyond, revealing the next stage of their dragonhide odyssey. They stood, eyes alight. The journey of the breath-opened gate was fulfilled. Ahead lay the final unveilings of the dragonhide secrets. Bone flute. Leo played the 6 storm motif. The column emitted purple flashes. Bone comb. Lin gently traced runes across the hide. The comb glowed pale silver. The final flourish. The column burst forth in a riot of 6 blended colors: amber, silver, green, purple, golden brown, pale white. The chamber quaked. A hidden stone arch slid open, revealing another descending corridor, its darkness curling like unread pages in an ancient tome. Leo caught his breath. "Nothing like this, ever." Daniel smiled. "This language is for the soul, the ears." Lin softly, "Forward lies Tier 4's message, the end of breath-opened gate." As the stone gate creaked open, a stream of white light from the 4th shrine spilled into the ash-filled depths of Etna, suffusing the cavern in an ethereal glow. The 3 Lin-Mile Larocque, Daniel Vermeer, and Leo Hartman stood still, eyes moist, feeling as if they had just passed through the death of language itself. Before them rose a spiral staircase leading to a circular chamber with a vaulted ceiling that mimicked a starlit sky. The air, thick with the sacred presence of dragonhide light and eternal breath. felt both divine and suffocating. Daniel took a deep breath, wiping sweat from his brow. We've reached what the Dragonhide has kept hidden for 1,000 years. Leo smirked. Let's just hope this isn't the final trap. Lin smiled gently, stepping onto the first stair. No more traps, only the manuscript. Awakening. Descending 3 steps, they reached the center of the circular chamber. At its heart, atop a white stone pedestal, rested a large leather-bound book, the size of an ancient encyclopedia. Its hardened cover was embossed with a dragon and phoenix entwined in an endless loop. Across the cover, silver dragon scale glyphs spelled out, "The first language awakens," all around the chamber. The walls shimmered faintly with ancient Dragonhide glyphs, carved eons ago. The glow of these symbols seemed to sketch the memory flow of a pre-language, an invisible force pulling the soul into its manuscript. Lin gently traced the cover, whispering, "Once the manuscript awakens, it will reawaken the language of origin." "We can't predict what comes next," Leo quipped nervously. "Sounds like I'm about to get hardwired with dragon grammar." Daniel examined the embossing with a flashlight. "I see traces of volcano ash, desert sand, and forest wind. Everything we've endured converges here." Lin carefully opened the book. The dry leather pages crackled as they turned. First page, repeating dragon-scale glyphs, like eternal breath cycles. Middle pages, symbols of sound storm notes, and breath patterns they had previously activated. Final page, margins left blank, awaiting new inscriptions. Lin exhaled slowly and touched the first glyph on the opening page. It glowed, pulsing through the hide like a startled heartbeat. The Dragonhide resonated in rhythm. Leo watched. "Read one out loud." Lin tensed slightly, selected a glyph, and spoke. "XO." The sound slithered like a blade-tongued serpent. The manuscript trembled, flaring green. Walls that had been silent now whispered echoes. "XO. Will guide you to the origin." Daniel hit record. Leo blinked in awe. "I can hear the inflection of pre-language." Lin whispered. "We read one by one. The manuscript waits for us to complete its flow." They began experimenting. Lin used a quill to trace the uttered glyphs into the blank margins. Leo repeated, "XO, XO, XO." Under the LED light of Daniel's camera, the glyph from the first page duplicated, gradually shifting, revealing the second glyph. "Read." Lin inscribed "Read" beside "XO." Each new glyph flared silver white, echoed by the Dragonhide, and projected onto the walls. "XO. Read." "Fa." "Tao." Each correctly spoken and drawn glyph lit up the room. But one mistaken stroke turned glyphs to dust. Leo frowned. "This language does not forgive errors." Daniel added, "It demands care like calligraphy." After dozens of exhausting attempts, they completed the first 6 glyphs. "X Orpha Tau Max," Lin read slowly. "X Orhi Fatau Max." Suddenly, the Dragonhide pillar fell silent, glowing with a warm bronze hue. The final echo on the walls. "The language has half awakened. Complete the final Ash Night." Their hearts pounded. Leo asked, "What's the final Ash Night?" Lin thought aloud. "Red ash. Etna's ash. We must find flowing ash near the caldera." Daniel nodded. "There's still one molten ash pit northeast." They left the circular room, descended the arched stairs into the orange mist of volcanic dusk. Leo muttered, "We have to walk the ash plains at night?" Lin replied solemnly, "Only if the ash still burns. Under moonlight it will glow." They trudged through glowing ash, climbed scorched cliffs, and found a pit of molten red ash slow-moving, like lava. Lin dipped a finger into the ash and traced the 6 earlier glyphs onto the manuscript's last page. The ash adhered to the margins, merging with the Dragonhide's light. "X Orpha Tau Max." "Tro." Daniel filmed. Each glyph twice ash and breath. Leo nodded. "This time, we breathe the ash." Together, they inhaled the thin ash mist, traced the final glyph, Tro, onto the page. The manuscript burst into a cascade of 6 colors: green, orange, white, purple, yellow, red, then settled. The Dragonhide flared pure white, illuminating a fresh ring on the wall. The language has fully awakened. Speak aloud, and the words shall return. Back in the circular shrine, the book lay wide open. The final page shimmered with 7 glyphs. Exo Re Fa Tau Max Trolin stepped into the circle of light and declared, Exo Re Fa Tau Max Tro. As she shouted Tro, the chamber echoed a symphony of responses, storm sounds, breath tones, ash language reverberations, shimmering light pulses. The glyphs danced, radiating outward, illuminating the entire circular chamber. In the blinding white light, a spectral figure appeared within the dragonhide flame, a cloaked monk stitched in glyphs. Raising a hand, he spoke, I am the vocal scribe keeper of the pre-language. Only when 6 tiers are unified does the manuscript awaken, and the reader must bear the responsibility of transmission. Lin, Daniel, and Leo stepped forward. Eyes fixed on him, Leo whispered, he's not a ghost, he's human. The scribe nodded. I've lived 1,000 years by this language. Now has returned, but only to those who understand this. The pre-language is not to be spoken, but to be held. Daniel asked quietly. Held? How? The scribe smiled. Held in heart, in memory, in action. I pass you the manuscript, but it will not speak aloud. It becomes the language of the heart. The scribe calmly drew a small leather tube from his cloak, carved with the 6 awakened glyphs. He placed it on the altar. This is the tube of the awakened manuscript. Carry it into the light of the world. When placed in silence, the pre-language will restore memory to humanity. Lin accepted it carefully, ash clinging to her palms. Leo examined the tube. Heavier than the dragonhide, Daniel whispered. It holds storms, breath, and eternal flame. The scribe nodded. Pass it to one worthy, and remember to keep it, is to speak it. After receiving the tube, the 3 bowed to the vocal scribe. The room dimmed, dragonhide light fading. The breath gate reopened. Ash mist danced. They packed the manuscript and tube in glass cases, walked the silent hall, and climbed the spiral staircase. Outside, the ash horizon awaited. Leo chuckled. I didn't think I'd carry a storm, a volcano, and 1,000-year-old linguist in my backpack. Lin smiled. We don't just carry objects, we carry a language. Within the heart, Daniel gazed at distant Etna. When the world is ready, we'll open the tube. Atop the ashen ridge, the sun had set. The orange glow faded into night. They paused, then stepped across the boundary between the ash and Ravenmaw forest. The night wind cut deep, but warmth stirred within them. Lin touched the manuscript tube. The journey isn't over. Behind each glyph, each trial, is a message for the future. Leo clapped her on the shoulder. A future of language and of humanity. Daniel smiled. We are awakened. Now, we keep it. The last rays of sunlight slipped behind the ridges of Mount Etna, staining the twilight sky in hues of rose and ember. Thin orange ash still clung to the cracks of the cliff walls. In that moment of suspended breath, Lin-Mael Larocque, Daniel Vermeer, and Leo Hartman paused, exchanging glances filled with the weight of a journey no words could contain. They had crossed 3 elemental trials: the silent stone cavern, the nameless monastery, and the storm in the sigil, before reaching the gate opened by breath, and ultimately receiving the awakened manuscript. This moment was not an ending, but a turning of the page, a new beginning. A veil of volcanic mist settled on Lin's brow. She lifted the leather cylinder containing the manuscript, took a deep breath. In that breath, ash, light, and dragon scale glyphs pulsed as one, like the heartbeat of a primordial tongue. She remembered every step, every glyph they had linked, every breath they had used to unlock the stone gate. And now, the manuscript, nestled inside the tube, was ready to awaken with them. We did it, Daniel whispered, his voice trembling not from fear, but emotion. The pre-language has awakened. Leo smiled, wiping soot from his glasses. I never thought I'd hear the language of stone, ashwells, and wind. But now, it's crystal clear. Lin gestured toward a narrow mountain cleft nearby. We need a quiet place. where no one will disturb it. There, the manuscript will open. They found a shallow alcove tucked beneath the cliff face, spread out a weatherproof cloth over the stone floor. The wind from the valley swept through, carrying the moist breath of volcanic ash. Lin carefully placed the tube upon the cloth. They knelt around it. Language is a living thing, she whispered. It will awaken if we treat it with respect. Leo folded his hands like in prayer. Daniel set up the recorder not to film, but to capture the rhythm of their breaths and the wind, preserving the memory for themselves. Lin gently opened the tube. Ash particles rose in the moonlight, catching silver sparks. Inside was a thin, rolled sheet of hide, etched with the 6 completed dragon scale glyphs, glowing with a soft bronze hue. She removed it and laid it in her palm. Immediately, the hide shuddered like a heartbeat, radiating a gentle warmth. Lin stared at it, voice catching. It's waking up. Daniel and Leo inhaled together, attuned to the tremor of the manuscript, a silence that echoed like a subterranean murmur from a forgotten age. Leo asked, almost afraid, "What do we do now?" Lin nodded slowly, his glimmering. "We must read the final line, not with our voices, but with our hearts and memories. This is the oath of the manuscript." She set the scroll atop a makeshift altar of stone. The 3 laid their hands upon the hide. A warmth pulsed upward from the scroll, tracing their fingers, reaching their hearts. Lin closed her eyes and from within, whispered the sacred glyphs. Exo re fa tau max trono sound passed their lips, only their heartbeats, steady and in unison. The scroll began to glow, its light reaching upward to meet the faint moon above, casting a pattern across the ash-streaked ceiling. The 6 lights intertwined to form the image of a dragon ascending into the sky. Lin smiled faintly. The language has returned home. The manuscript did not speak through words but through memory. The first breaths of humankind, the first flames of civilization, the echoes of storm and ash, the voice of the mother stone. Everything fused into an invisible symphony, resonating within the minds of the 3 who had dared to cross a door sealed for millennia. The light faded, returning the cavern to its ash-tinted stillness. But inside their hearts, a silent barrier had shattered. The pre-language was no longer dormant. Lin carefully returned the scroll to its glass case. "Our treasure," she whispered, "isn't gold or relics. It's memory." Daniel nodded, voice low. "We must protect it and pass it on the right way." Leo smiled softly. "Keep it in the heart, just like the vocal scribe told us." They wandered slowly back down the orange ash trail toward the forest edge, toward Ravenmaw, the starting point of their long quest. Along the path, Leo muttered, "I think I need a sweet coffee to balance all this salt and ash." Daniel laughed. "Even bitter espresso is easier to swallow than Dragonhide grammar." Lin glanced back toward the shadowed trees. "Coffee or not, remember this is only the first chapter. The pre-language still holds many secrets yet to awaken." They fell quiet again, letting the rustling leaves speak. The wind was no longer mere air, it now carried the whispers of the first language. They smiled, walking through the breath of both history and future. A week later, back in Toulouse, Lin reopened her long-shuttered bookstore. She placed the glass case containing the Dragonhide and manuscript tube on the upper balcony shelf, between ancient texts and faded carvings. A small wooden plaque read, "The Pre-Language, a tiny museum by Lin Mile Leroque." Passers-by didn't understand the dragon scale glyphs, but they felt something sacred. An elderly man paused, smiling knowingly. "You've been chosen to keep the promise." Lin nodded gently. "Memory isn't meant to be forgotten." In her study, Daniel and Leo helped compile the deciphered manuscript, a book recording the journey, not just its sights, but its feelings, its breath, its resonances. A whole new method of keeping language was born. Lin decided, "We'll pass it on, through story, through shared memory." On the day the language museum opened, Lin stood beside the glass case. A quiet crowd gathered. Whispers rippled through the visitors about the Dragonhide, the caverns, the monastery, the storm, the breath at Etna. the awakening manuscript. But none except Daniel and Leo knew the full depth. Lynn stepped up to the small platform. Her voice was calm, steady. Thank you for coming. What you see here isn't just an artifact. It is memory. It is the language of life, of ash, of storm, of stone. We often confuse language with speech, but the first language, the pre-language, is the connection between memory and the heart. Today, we are not displaying a language. We are keeping it. As those who keep the fire, who keep the ash, who keep the whispers of our ancestors. The room fell silent. Some wept. Others bowed their heads not in awe, but as if something had stirred deep inside, something long buried, a forgotten memory. And so, the tale of the Dragonhide cipher came to its close not as a full stop, but as a circle, a space where language, memory, and heart intertwined. The three companions, Lynn Larocque, Daniel Vermeer, and Leo Hartman, had not only uncovered the secret of the first language, they had uncovered its true meaning: to preserve beautiful memories, to share honest stories, and to let language live on in the hearts of those who dare to listen. In the fragrant night air, beneath the rustling trees of Ravenmore, the wind still sings like a hymn, like a whisper. Language is not only sound, it is memory, breath, ash, storm. It is life. To protect the first language is to protect ourselves, and that will forever be the oath of those who walk the ancient path.